Here we are in epic. We're going to deal with some deep stuff this morning, okay? I want you to get your philosophical mindset on because we're going to wrestle with one of the questions of life. And the question that we're going to wrestle with this morning is this: what is the meaning of life? Or what is the purpose of life? And this is what the book of Ecclesiastes is going to seek to answer for us. We're in the wisdom section of Scripture, right? We're dealing with poetry and wisdom where God uses Solomon to drop some amazing earthly wisdom on us, actually some heavenly wisdom from God through Solomon to us. And the book of Ecclesiastes is going to answer this question: what's the meaning of life? And what's the purpose of life? And who better to learn from than Solomon? Number one, he was the wisest man that ever has lived or ever will live. This is what God said. God asked Solomon, what do you want? And he said, I just want wisdom. So we're going to learn from the guy that has wisdom. Number two, we're going to learn from the guy that has had it all. When it comes to life, there's not a guy that's had more than Solomon. I mean, in every area of life that you could think to excel or that you could want, and every desire of the world that would be available, Solomon had. So whether it's wealth or possessions or power or status or women or glory or fame, like whatever it is, he had it to the umpteenth degree. And so if there is ever a guy that has been there, done that, and we can learn on his dime, it's going to be Solomon. He had the best of the best in every category available. And here's what we're going to find. Every single one of those pursuits that he chased down, he said this: it all doesn't matter. He actually said it's all meaningless. It all ends up being meaningless. And so he's going to go for 11 chapters and talk about all his different pursuits. There's 12 chapters in Ecclesiastes. The climax of the book is chapter 12. He builds to chapter 12 with 11 chapters of, I tried this, meaningless. I tried this, meaningless. I tried this, meaningless. And he gets to chapter 12. Chapter 12 is the great reveal of actually what we find for the purpose of life and the meaning of life. And so it's a fascinating book, and I want to invite you to deeply ponder your own life today. Like, what is the purpose of life? And are you living out the purpose of life? The meaning behind your life of what God has called us to be and to do? And so in order to do that, you need to understand a key Hebrew word. We're going to be introduced to a key Hebrew word. It's used 38 times throughout Ecclesiastes. It's dropped all throughout there. It's only used one other time in the whole Old Testament, 38 times in Ecclesiastes. And it's the Hebrew word hevel. All right, say it with me, class. Hevel, okay? It's pronounced it looks like Hebel, but it's pronounced hevel. And here's what hevel means. It literally means vapor or smoke. It's breath or midst. It's something that is so temporary. You see it for a second, and then it's gone, right? That's hevel. And that word is going to be used all throughout to help us understand that a lot of this is all just hevel, right? Hevel, the idea behind hevel is meaningless, temporary, short-lived. It's often translated in different translations, right? Either as meaningless. Some translations use vanity. The CSB that we use here translates it as futility. Futile. It's worthless. It's pointless. Doesn't last. It's like window dressing, kind of temporary, right? And so here's the key thing that we're going to see as we go through Ecclesiastes. Here's the key takeaway this morning. You and I often try to find meaning and purpose in life apart from God. And Ecclesiastes is going to deconstruct each one of these pursuits. That the world promises, listen, you want to have a good life? This is what it is. It's about this or about this. And so all of us have at one time or another pursued, let our hearts get captured by temporary things under the sun. That's another phrase that shows up a lot. That we chase after these pursuits apart from God, and we end up still feeling like our life is missing something. We still have a longing in our heart. We're not satisfied. And so Ecclesiastes is going to show us what life is really about. And Solomon's going to do it by showing us how he had the best of the best in every category. and it's all hevel. That's what he's going to say. It's all hevel. It's all meaningless. Okay, so let's begin. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1. Here's what's going to happen. He's going to go through each one of these different pursuits, these different worldly passions, these different things that the enemy, essentially, who's in charge of the world and who operates the world and who dangles all these different carrots out in front of us to try and get us to latch onto, to think this is what life is about. Solomon's going to go through each one of them for 11 chapters and going to tell us at the end, eventually, it's all hevel. It's all temporary. It's all a vapor. It's all meaningless. And so we'll go through each one, and then we'll come to a conclusion about each one based upon what Solomon tells us, okay? So let's learn on his dime this morning. Don't be like, my dad used to say, you don't have to stick your head in the gutter to know it stinks, right? And don't be that stubborn where like, no, I need to, no. Let's learn on Solomon's dime about what life is really about from a guy who has been there, done that, and had the best of the best in every category. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1 goes like this. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. The words of the teacher. So the book is framed up. Solomon is not actually mentioned by name as the author. 99% of biblical scholars believe this is Solomon who's writing. He calls himself the teacher. It's the Hebrew word kuheleth. It's the idea, kuheleth is one who gathers people around him to instruct. It was always to instruct. So it's often translated as teacher. And so Solomon is the teacher, son of David, that was Solomon, king in Jerusalem, we know that, well, that was Solomon. And so he jumps right in, like he starts off with like, and the book is kind of negative, like it feels actually kind of depressing the first 11 chapters. Most people believe, most scholars believe that Solomon wrote this book at the end of his life. He wrote it at the end. Remember when he was with God, we talked about Solomon in Kings and Chronicles. He started strong. He loved God. He asked for wisdom. He didn't ask for riches or fame or money. He just said, I want wisdom, and God gave him wisdom. And then he started strong as a good king, but then he got his heart pulled away by many foreign wives. Not just many. He had hundreds of wives. He had hundreds of concubines. And so he lived a pleasure-filled life for much of his kingship. And Ecclesiastes, it's believed, he wrote at the end of his life, as he's looking back on his life, in everything that he had, riches, fame, power, status, women, possessions. And he says, it all was for nothing. It all is hevel. It didn't. So it's a reflection of an old wise man looking back on everything he had. And so he starts off here in verse 2 and says this, absolute futility, says the teacher. Absolute futility. Everything is futile, right? That's our word hevel. It's all meaningless. Everything under the sun, all of these worldly pleasures, it's all temporary, and it's like this breath, this mist, this vapor, this smoke. I see it for a second, and then it's gone. He goes on and he says, what does a person gain for all of his efforts that he labors at under the sun? A generation comes and a generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. Like things aren't changing. It just kind of goes in cycles. Jump to verse 8. He says, man, just all things are just wearisome, more than anyone can say. The eye is not satisfied by seeing, or the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. Look, there's nothing new under the sun. Can one say about anything, look, this is new? It's already existed in the ages before us. There's no remembrance of those who came before, and of those who will come after, there will also be no remembrance by those who follow them. And so this opening paragraph, Solomon is just kind of lamenting and sharing that there's nothing new under the sun. People come and people go. Seasons come and seasons go. Things aren't changing. The earth remains forever. Nature kind of just repeats its cycle. Basically, here's the conclusion, and this is what we'll do. We'll examine each one of his pursuits, and then here's basically what conclusion statement, what Solomon is saying. Here's the conclusion of the opening paragraph of the book. Everything in this world is temporary. That's the conclusion he comes to. This is all temporary. This is all hevel. And listen, this is so important. I can't encourage you enough. that your worldview dictates to you how you engage with the purpose of life. If you think life is about having a good life here and you live for the here and the now, you are missing the broader picture. In Ecclesiastes, you're in the right spot. Ecclesiastes is going to push against your worldview. It's going to challenge you to see beyond the here and the now. We're here for 60, 70, 80 years, whatever it is. And if you think that's all there is and live for now and get as much as you can here, Ecclesiastes is going to ask you to expand your worldview, that underneath the sun, there's really nothing new and it's all hevel, that you need to learn to live life above the sun and see beyond with an eternal point of view. This is what Solomon's going to challenge us with. And so he's going to start naming specific pursuits, and he's going to start with wisdom. Right? He was the wisest person. It's what he asked for. So he starts with that one first, and he's going to say, man, I had wisdom. I had wisdom out the wazoo. I pursued wisdom. And you know what? It was hevel too. Look what he says, verse 13. I applied my mind to examine and explore through wisdom all that is done under heaven. Verse 14. I've seen all the things that are done under the sun, and I've found everything to be futile, a pursuit of the wind. I said to myself, see, I've amassed wisdom far beyond all those who were over Jerusalem before me, and my mind has thoroughly grasped wisdom and knowledge. I applied my mind to know wisdom and knowledge and madness and folly, and I learned that this too is a pursuit of the wind. For with much wisdom is much sorrow. As knowledge increases, grief increases. Right? And so Solomon, as great as wisdom is, and last week we did the book of Proverbs, and there's all kinds of wisdom. I pray that you enjoyed reading Proverbs, right? As amazing as it is to have wisdom, Solomon says wisdom is not simply just where it's at. It does not bring a life of purpose and meaning and significance. There's got to be more than just wisdom. And so what's his conclusion? He actually concludes at the end, right? He said this, more knowledge that you have often brings greater sorrow, right? It's like the more that you live, isn't this true? Old people, right? Isn't this true? The more that you live, the more experiences you have, the more perspective you have, the more wisdom you have, the more that you see the world is just broken, the greater kind of the heaviness of your heart is, the more sorrow you have, right? That's kind of just the way, like, listen, there's not a lot of 8-year-olds upstairs with sorrow, broken-filled hearts, right? They just don't have the world experience, the world view. But the longer you live, the wiser you are, the more heavy your heart gets. This is what Solomon is saying. And so, all right, wisdom has been found wanting. It's not there. He goes, all right, well, how about this? He's like, let's try pleasure. Maybe life is about the pursuit of pleasure. And if it feels good, do it. And Solomon lived his life for years with that mentality. If it feels good, do it. And so he explores pleasure. In chapter 2, verse 1, he says, I said to myself, go ahead. I will test you with pleasure. Talking to himself. Enjoy what is good. If it feels good, I'm going to do it. He says, but it turned out to be futile. I said about laughter. Let me just have a good time. Let's just have a party. Let's just let life be a party. That's madness, he says. It's madness. And about pleasure, he says, what does this accomplish? I explored with my mind the pull of wine on my body. Man, let me just party and just have a good time. My mind is still guiding me with wisdom and how to grasp folly until I could see what is good for people to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. What's the conclusion he comes to here? Here's the conclusion. Pleasure ultimately accomplished nothing. Oh, it felt good for a little bit. I mean, listen, if the things the enemy dangled in front of us didn't feel good for a season, we wouldn't be tempted to bite on them. And so it felt good temporarily. It's a fun experience, but ultimately it doesn't last. Ultimately, it doesn't provide meaning. Ultimately, it's not a purpose-filled life just to enjoy pleasure and feel good all the time. There's got to be more than that, Solomon says. And so he goes, all right. If it's not about wisdom and it's not about pleasure, he goes, let me pursue stuff. Let me just get as much as I can. Let me have as much stuff as he can. And so that's what he explores next. Chapter 2, verse 4, he says, so I increased my achievements. Listen to this. I built houses, plural, houses, and I planted vineyards for myself. I made gardens and parks. He had literally had parks for himself, and I planted every kind of fruit tree in them. I constructed reservoirs, plural, for myself, from which to irrigate a grove of flourishing trees. I acquired male and female servants and had slaves who were born in my house. I also owned livestock, large herds and flocks, more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. I also amassed silver and gold for myself and the treasure of kings and provinces. I gathered male and female singers for myself and many concubines, the delights of men. I became great, and I surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. My wisdom also remained with me. All that my eyes desired, I did not deny them. I did not refuse myself any pleasure, for I took pleasure in all my struggles. This was my reward for all my struggles. What is it, Solomon? When I considered all that I had accomplished and what I labored to achieve, I found everything to be hevel, meaningless, futile, a vapor, temporary. It's like he says, pursuit of the wind. There was nothing to be gained under the sun. Conclusion of pleasure and achievements and all of this, he says, I found it all meaningless and I gained me nothing. Stuff doesn't bring happiness. You know that? As nice as that new remodeled kitchen is, with that nice granite countertop and that tile backsplash and all of the stuff that just speaks to our hearts that we pursue, all of it is hevel. All of it is temporary. All of it doesn't last. The kitchen is going to eventually be outdated again. Right? You're going to have to remodel again. All of it is just, it's like chasing after the wind, he says. So then he goes, all right, it's not about wisdom, it's not about pleasure, it's not about stuff, it's about houses and nice things. He goes, let me try something. How about work? He says, let me just work hard. Let me just be a man that produces and feels good. Let me just get stuff done. Let me work. And so he explores work. And this is what he says about work. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 17. He says, after work, therefore, I hated life because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me. For everything is hovel and a pursuit of the wind. I hated all my work that I labored at under the sun. Why? Because I must leave it to the one who comes after me. And who knows whether he be wise or a fool, he says. Yet he will take over all my work that I labored at skillfully under the sun. This too is futile. All of it. Conclusion, work, someone else inherits everything. What am I going to do? And listen, my kids might be idiots with my stuff. So I'm going to be leaving them with my stuff and they're going to squander my... He's like, it doesn't last. I can't take it with me. I got to leave it here and I got to leave it to somebody else. Man, pretty depressing start, frankly, to Ecclesiastes, is it not? Right? In case you missed it, let's just do a quick review here. Opening paragraph, starting out of the book, what's he say? Well, he says this, everything's temporary. This life is temporary. It's not going to last. There's more beyond. Don't live for the dot. Live for eternity. Don't live for the here and now. This is temporary. And then he says, listen, I explored wisdom. I explored pleasure. I explored possessions. I explored work. And none of it was going to bring meaning to life. So then he goes on, the teacher goes on, and he writes a poem. And he writes a poem about time and about how time just marches on. And there's different seasons of life. And sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. And he writes this poem by comparing and contrasting 14 couplets of opposites, right? And he's going to go through and talk about how there's a season for everything. And for every season, things will turn. That sounds like a good song. Somebody should make that into a song. Old people get it. You young people, just look up the Birds. with a Y, and then look, it's a great song. It's based on, they ripped it off from Ecclesiastes. They stole Solomon's poem. It's based on this, and it's based on how, listen, life just goes on, and you're going to go through these different seasons, right? Let's look at it. Verse 1, chapter 3, verse 1. There's an occasion for everything. There's a time for every activity under heaven. Here comes the 14 couplets. A time to give birth, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to throw stones, a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to avoid embracing, a time to search and a time to count as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to be silent, a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Point, verse 11. He has made everything appropriate in its time, and he also put eternity in their hearts. Important verse, we'll come back to that. No one can discover the work God has done from beginning to end. Like the vastness of what God is doing, we'll never know. We can't discover it. Verse 14, I know that everything God does will last forever. There's no adding to it. There's no taking away from it. God works so that people will be in awe of him. And whatever is has already been. And whatever will be, it already is. And so, what is this poem saying? It's the central theme is that life just operates in these predictable cycles. And there are seasons that you and I go through. Listen, sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. Sometimes you're mourning, sometimes you're dancing. Sometimes you need to plant, sometimes you need to uproot. Sometimes you fight, sometimes you're peace. Sometimes you speak, sometimes you don't speak, right? And it's kind of, that's what life is, and it just kind of goes in these cycles. And sometimes it just kind of feels very random and chaotic, and it feels very haphazard, and it feels like, is there anything good coming of this? It reminds me of watching my mom sit on the couch for hours every night and do this latchkey rug thing that she used to do. I think that's what it was called. She had all these piles of thread, and she had this tapestry in front of her, and it had little holes, and she would take the thread and had this little tool and pull it through and to do it and tie it into a knot and take another thread. It was color coded and take this and pull it through. And on the back of it, the whole it was just frankly like ugly. It was incredibly ugly because you had all this thread coming through and tied off in knots, and you couldn't see any pattern and just different lengths thread, and just kind of looked very chaotic. And until she took it and then flipped it on the upright. And then you could see, there's just actually this beautiful picture that is actually being woven together by all these threads on the back that look chaotic out front. It just was this beautiful picture. And I think that that's kind of a picture of us in life as we go through these seasons of ups and downs and a time for this and that. And we have the perspective of only looking at the back. And we're looking at the back of our lives, and we're looking at it, and it just looks kind of ugly, looks kind of chaotic, like random. It doesn't make sense. And like, is there any good that can come from this? Listen, and it's often not until you come around, the Lord brings you around from the other perspective, often in eternity, where you get to see, that's what you were doing, Lord. You were actually the master artist. You were the one who, on this side, it looks very random and haphazard and chaotic, but on this side, I see the beautiful artwork that you have created. And this is what Scripture says. Scripture tells us that now we only see in part, but then we will see in full, and we will understand, right? And so as you go through these seasons of life, things feel meaningless and purposeless. And Solomon's like, no. There's a master plan behind it. Here's the conclusion to the poem. The conclusion is this: God controls the times. We do not. We're not in control. God is in control. And even more importantly, the reason that we long for more is because God has placed that in our hearts. God has placed eternity in your heart. This is why every person has this desire for more. Like, I want, because God, listen, we're all made in the image of God. So we're made in the image of God. We all have this God-shaped hole in our heart that longs for more. Now, what the enemy does is he comes along and he gets us to have false substitutes to try and fill our heart with these different pleasures and pursuits and different things in life with a promise that that's going to make you happy. That's the good life. And this is where we get to learn from Solomon, who had it all and says, no, it isn't. It's not what life is about. He's placed eternity in your heart, and it's meant to be found in something beyond the worldly pursuits under the sun. You're not going to find happiness and peace and joy and contentment and purpose and meaning in stuff under the sun. It's kind of like, he says this multiple times. Have you caught it? He says it multiple times. It's kind of like chasing the wind. Caught that phrase? Chasing the wind. Think about it. As a matter of fact, I want you to do more think about it. Here's what I want you to do. The next time there's a windy day, I want you to go outside and I want you to chase the wind and catch it. You're like, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. Exactly. It's stupid to think that you're going to catch, you're going to chase the wind. It's ridiculous. And Solomon says that is exactly what a life looks like, trying to pursue life in pleasure, in possessions, in wisdom, in fame, in power. All of those things. It's like chasing the wind. It doesn't last. It's all hevel. It's all temporary. Think about that. I pray that you would do that. I don't want you to go out and run into the wind. But when there's a windy day, I pray that every time there's a windy day from now for the rest of your life, you think of Ecclesiastes. And you are reminded of the bigger picture of what life is about. Every time there's a gust of wind, you'll be like, oh, that's right. Life is beyond, right? Life is not about, man, if I think life is about the here and now, it's like trying to chase this wind and catch it. It's ridiculous. There's more. And so, for the second time, Solomon's going to go on the rest of the chapters, building up to chapter 11. He's going to talk about injustices that happen in the world. He's going to talk about why do the wicked prosper and why do the righteous suffer. He's going to talk about the importance of relationships. He's going to share how two are better than one. He's going to talk about the certainty of death, how death bets 1,000, it gets us all, right? These are all things that he's going to talk about the temporariness of this life, building up to the crescendo of chapter 12. And then he comes to chapter 12, and let me just boil it down to you. He's going to come to chapter 12, and he's going to share these two principles that says life comes down ultimately to these two things. You ready for what they are? Here's what he says. Life comes down to these two things. Number one, fear God. And number two, obey his commands. This is what life is to be about. These two core things. We'll unpack them in just a second. Let's look at chapter 12. Because listen, he has some words for young people first. And they're really important words. So young people, listen to me. If you're young, like 30 and younger, let's call that younger generation, okay? He has some very specific warning words to you, younger generation. Here they are. Chapter 12, verse 1. So, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Why? Why is it important to do this when you're young? Before the days of adversity come and the years approach you when you say, I have no delight in them. Right? Before you just get old and cranky, is basically what Solomon is saying, is that it's important to get God in your heart while you're young. Young people, listen to me. Don't believe the lie that the enemy has served up to you that, well, I'll get serious about God when I get older. Like, I'll get more religious. I'll get more spiritual when I get married, or when I have a family, or when I get my adult job, or when I have a house, or when I get kids, or later I'll be more serious about God. That's a lie that the enemy has told the younger generation to put off. The most important thing now is to remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Get God in your heart now while you're young, and don't think, well, that's going to happen when I get older. Now is the time, young people. Now is the time. You're here, and I'm so glad you're here. And stay with other Christians in the community, and live out your faith with God in your heart now. And don't believe the lie that it's just going to be easier when you get older and things slow down or things change and you get a family. And all. It's not how it works. And so then everything builds to verse 13. Verse 13 is the crescendo of the whole book. And here's what verse 13 says. It says this, when all of this, it's summarizing the whole book. When all of this has been heard, the conclusion of the matter is this: fear God and keep his commands. Because this is for all of humanity. There it is. When it all comes down, here is the conclusion of the matter. I want you to do two things, Solomon says. Fear God and keep his commands. That is a meaningful, purpose-filled life. That is worth living for. What would your life look like if you just did those two things? You just did those two things. Fear God, obey his commands. Let's talk about fear God. We've talked about fear God a lot, so I'm not going to go in Epic. I'm not going to go into a lot. Remember what we said? Fear God is just having this humble, awe-filled, reverent love for God, where you come under his lordship and his leadership, and you're like, God, you're in charge, I'm not. I'm afraid of what my life would look like out here, away from you, apart from you. And so fear of God is not, oh, I'm afraid, but it's come, and it's a respect-loving, awe, humble-filled lordship of God in my life. And then while you're there, you stay there by doing what? Second thing, obey his commands. You take his word and you apply his word to your life, and you get it in your heart, and you stay there, and you live under his word, under his lordship, fearing God. This is the picture of how you and I should live life. Obey his commands. Not some of his commands, not the commands that are comfortable, the ones that you like, the ones you agree with, the ones that fit your personality or fit your lifestyle. You obey all of his commands. This one, and this one, and this one, and this one. You don't pick and choose and cherry pick which parts of the Bible you're going to obey. You obey them all. How different would your life look if you just did these two things? Fear God and obey his commands. That's how we're going to close, is I'm going to give you a minute to pray through that and ask God, what should I do? What do I need to do that? But before we do that, let me just tell you real quick about Jesus in Ecclesiastes. Right? Is Jesus in Ecclesiastes? Well, kind of. Because think about Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes reveals the emptiness of possessions and pleasure and work and wisdom and all these things that promise to fill your heart. And in a sense, Ecclesiastes creates this question of well, what is it then? If it's not that, and it's not that, and it's not that, and it's not, well, what is it then? That's what Ecclesiastes asks, and then the New Testament comes along and says, it's Jesus. The answer is actually Jesus. What is it that you have a longing for in your heart? The God-shaped hole in your heart that you've tried to put everything else into is only filled truly by Jesus in your heart, Jesus in your life. Jesus is the one who can come in and give your life meaning and purpose and peace. He is the one. It's not a thing, it's a person that wants to come in and show you how to live life. I'll say it like this. The end of the search for truth and meaning and purpose is actually Jesus Christ. The one who said he is the truth. He is the life. It's him. It's a person. And so Ecclesiastes tells us not that life is worthless, but that life can have purpose found only in God alone when you fear him and you obey his commands. Otherwise, there's nothing new under the sun. Do you notice how many times that phrase was used? It's used like chasing the wind is used a lot, and then there's nothing new under the sun. That's used 29 times in Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun. In other words, that is the person that lives life with the perspective that this life, this temporary physical life, is what it's all about. And Solomon's trying to get you to say, no, life is not lived under the sun, but life is actually lived beyond, within it. I'll say it like this. Life under the sun has nothing to offer. Life under the sun has everything to offer. And that is why Jesus came. Jesus came to offer you life. And you need to say yes to Jesus. See, a lot of people know about Jesus. A lot of people believe in Jesus. They've kind of familiar with Jesus, but you've never said yes to Jesus. You've never asked him to kind of come into your life, save you, forgive you, fill that God-shaped hole in your life. I'm going to give you a chance to do that today. For the rest of us, Jesus did something and told us never to forget the sacrifice he made. It's only by his death on the cross that you and I can even have access to God the Father. It's all because of Jesus, all through Jesus, and what Jesus did on the cross. And so on the last night of his life, he said, don't ever forget the sacrifice I'm going to make, which is what he instituted when he did the first communion. So I'm going to ask you at this time to go ahead and grab that cup that we had on your chair when you came in, and you can peel back that first layer and just take that wafer out. It's a reminder to us of what happened on the last night of his life. Jesus wanted to do something so that you and I would, here we are 2,000 years later, we do what Jesus said to do to remember his death, because he gave this beautiful word picture, this symbol. He could have just said it, but he didn't say it. Instead, what he did is he took a loaf of bread and he broke the bread and he said, this is actually my body. This bread is actually my body. And my opinion, the disciples had no clue what he was talking about. They didn't know what was about to happen some 16 hours later, that he would literally be nailed, his body on the cross. I don't think they knew. Jesus knew. And he wanted to remind them that you can't ever forget what I'm about to go through for you, because it is the key to life, to say yes to my sacrifice on the cross. And so I'm going to give you something that you would always remember, that I want you to do in remembrance of me. And so he took the bread and he broke it, and then he said, so this is like my body. This is my body, which will be broken for you. And so I want to do one of two things. Right now, one, if you've never said yes to Jesus, now is your time to say yes. In your own heart, Jesus, I'm saying yes to you. I don't want to know about you. I don't want religion or religiosity. Jesus, I want you. I'm saying yes. Come into my life, Jesus. Come into my God-shaped hole in my heart. The rest of you, I want you to say thank you to Jesus for his body that was broken for you. Go ahead and take 20 seconds and do that now. He took the bread, he broke it, and then he said, this is my body. Don't ever forget, do this in remembrance of me. Let's partake together. Go ahead and peel back that second layer. He wasn't done with the analogy. He wasn't done with the word picture yet, because he took the cup that was filled with wine and he said, well, this is my blood. Not that the wine turns into blood, but the wine represents his blood that would be poured out. His blood would be spilled the next day. giving his life. When you lose all your blood, you lose your life. And Jesus would lose his life, lose his blood on the cross. This is why Christians say what sounds sometimes weird to outsiders, but we know what we mean when we say, well, I have the blood of Christ in my life, or the blood has washed me clean, or I'm washed in the blood of the Lamb. We're like, what are you talking about being washed in the blood? Well, it's because Jesus shed his blood, and his blood covers over all of my sins and washes away my sins. It's because of what Jesus did that I'm forgiven. Salvation is only available because Jesus shed his blood on the cross. And he didn't want us to forget that, and he wanted us to remember the sacrifice he made, so he took the cup and he blessed it, and he said, this is my blood. Do this in remembrance of me. Let's partake together. Thank you, Jesus. I'm going to ask our prayer team to come forward at this time. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and bow your heads. So take 2 minutes here, and let's wrestle through these two Ecclesiastes chapter 12 climax of what life is about. These two things. Let's just let God begin the conversation in our hearts. Can we do that? Remember what they are? Fear God and obey his commands. Fear God and obey his commands. Here's the question I want you to listen for an answer in your spirit. Let the Holy Spirit speak to your spirit. And I want you to ask God this question. Lord, how am I doing living a life that A, fears you, and B, is obeying your commands? And is there anything you want me to start doing, or is there something you want me to stop doing? I want you to go ahead and ask the Lord that. Go ahead and ask. Life under the sun is hevel. It has nothing to offer to you and I. So may we be people who live by these two commands, that we live life under the S-O-N, Son, seeking to fear God and obey his commands. If you need prayer for anything in your life at all, our prayer team would love to pray for you. You just come forward and humbly share. They will listen and they will pray. The rest of you, I want to thank you for being here. We would ask humbly that you would quietly leave so we can keep this be a place of prayer. God bless you and have a great rest of your week.